Terrence Howard. You won't believe what happened next. Ever notice how the spotlight can feel like a furnace? 1 minute it's warming you, the next, it's melting everything you built. That's the story we're diving into tonight. The rise, the backlash, and the bruising aftermath surrounding Terrence Howard. How did a once can't-miss leading man go from awards buzz and blockbuster sets to legal fights, debts, and a storm of controversy? And is there any way back? Now, imagine being at the very top. Terrence Howard wasn't just famous. He was the face of a cultural moment. He shook the room as DJ in Hustle and Flow, earned that coveted Oscar nomination, and later ruled primetime as Lucius Lyon in Empire, a role so magnetic it felt ripped straight from his ribcage. He even helped launch a little thing called the Marvel Juggernaut in Iron Man as James Rhodey Rhodes. But the same industry that lifted him sky high has a habit of pulling the rug fast. Fast forward to a candid sit-down in April 2025. Terrence Howard said out loud what many suspected he felt iced out. Not getting big offers, not getting the calls. In plain words, he was ready to disappear. Was it sour grapes, or the honest truth of a star feeling shut out? Depends on where you stand. But it didn't fall from the sky. It followed a paper trail. Back in 2020, he took aim at a major studio over how Empire used his image, arguing he was owed more for the commercial lift his character gave the show. Then, in late 2023, he swung again, this time at CAA, claiming his pay on Empire was held down. He pointed to a figure that made jaws drop, around $325,000 per episode at the height of the series. Big money to most of us, sure, but, in his view, far less than his true market value. Over time, he said, that gap added up to an eye-watering shortfall in the hundreds of millions. Whether you agree or not, that's a bold stance to take against the most powerful forces in the room, forces that can stop returning your calls. Money troubles weren't just theoretical. In March 2024, a federal court hit Terrence Howard with a near seven-figure tax judgment after he didn't show up to contest it. That alone could rattle anyone. What came next rattled his image even more. Public comments implying he shouldn't owe taxes because of his ancestry. The internet predictably pounced, and the reaction was brutal. Even fans who wanted to defend him struggled with that one. Instead of laying low, he doubled down on speaking out. In 2025, he teased a tell-all podcast, promising to lift the curtain on backroom deals and Hollywood power plays. Nothing left to lose energy, for sure. But was it a righteous crusade, or a scorched earth goodbye tour? That depends on whether you root for the rebel or worry he's burning the last bridges still standing. And then came the flashpoints. On a long-form podcast, Terrence Howard said he'd turned down a proposed Marvin Gaye biopic role because it would have required a same-sex affection scene, adding an over-the-top line that many found offensive. The backlash was immediate. Some argued he's allowed his boundaries. Others said the way he framed it wasn't just personal preference, it was hurtful. He also ventured into science talk on another marathon interview, challenging bedrock math and physics, questioning the Pythagorean theorem, and floating ideas about gravity that scientists, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, publicly pushed back on. To many, it read as genius-level contrarianism or just plain misguided. Either way, attention-grabbing. Early 2025 brought another eyebrow-raising moment when he suggested Sean Diddy Combs once propositioned him. That claim wasn't verified, and it split the crowd again. Whistleblowing or headline chasing? You could almost feel the audience tug of war. Part of us loves a truth teller. Part of us hates feeling played. But to really understand the man at the center of this storm, you have to rewind the tape. When Terrence Howard was just 2, he witnessed a horrific stabbing involving his father in a department store line for Santa photos. The tabloid nickname for that case still chills. His parents split. He was raised for a time by his great-grandmother. He said he endured violence at home growing up. In 2008, he lost his mother, Anita Williams, after a long battle with cancer, and he wrote that his life split in two at that moment. Grief like that doesn't vanish. It just changes shape. His relationships were as dramatic as any script. He married Laurie McComas in the 90s, had 3 children, divorced, remarried, and divorced again. He married Michelle Gent in 2010. She later sought a restraining order and, years on, won a significant support judgment. In 2013, he married Mira Pak. They had 2 sons, filed for divorce, then circled back with an engagement announcement in 2018. There were arrests and accusations over the years that fed the narrative of volatility he could never quite outrun. It's messy, human, and frankly painful to watch in public. And yet, drop him into a role and the man glows. That's the paradox. Hustle and Flow, 2005, is still a masterclass in vulnerability and grit. He earned that Best Actor nod for a reason. In Crash, 2004, he was part of an ensemble that shook audiences. In Prisoners, 2013, under Denis Villeneuve, alongside Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, he proved again he could hang with anyone. He even cut an R&B record, Shine Through It. In 2008, not a chart monster, but proof of range. Then there's the Marvel chapter. In the first Iron Man, 2008, Terrence Howard reportedly made more than Robert Downey Jr. Wild to remember now, before a pay dispute for the sequel ended with Don Cheadle taking over as Rhodey. That fork in the road changed everything. Years later, Empire gave him a second act for the ages, and he wrote it. Hard awards, ratings, pop culture dominance. When it ended, he talked about retiring. In 2022, after The Best Man, the final chapters, he repeated it. But court fights and debts don't respect retirement speeches. He took gigs, by his own admission, to pay the bills. So where does that leave us, with a contradiction that refuses to tidy itself up? Terrence Howard is a once-in-a-generation screen presence who seems drawn, maybe doomed to controversy. Some see a brave man calling out the machine. Others see self-sabotage on loop. Both can be true. Hollywood is a place where you can rocket to the moon on Monday and be ghosted by Thursday. The talent that made us lean forward is still the talent that could write a stunning third act. But you don't get that act without allies. And allies get scarce when the fire alarm never stops ringing. If you're waiting for a neat bow, there isn't one. At 56, he's not the box office regular he once was. He's floating new projects, making loud claims, and stirring debates that suck the oxygen out of the room. And yet, when you rewatch DJ laying his soul on wax, or Lucius Lyon tightening his jaw before a deal, you remember why we cared in the first place. The work still lands. The question is whether the noise will ever quiet down long enough for the work to lead again. If you made it this far, you're the real MVP. If you want more deep dive stories, comebacks, flameouts, and everything in between, stick around. Drop a like if this breakdown hit the mark. Share it with someone who still quotes Hustle and Flow, and tap subscribe so you don't miss the next wild chapter. Your move, Terrence Howard, will be watching.